The Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the 19th chapter. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through it. A man was there named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was rich. He was trying to see who Jesus was, but on account of the crowd, he could not because he was short in stature. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree to see him, because he was going to pass that way. When Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today." So Zacchaeus hurried down and was happy to welcome Jesus. And all who saw it began to grumble and said, "He has gone to the guest of one who is a sinner." Zacchaeus stood there and said to the Lord, "Look, half of all my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much." Then Jesus said to him, "Today, salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
All of us, at one time or another, have been out on a limb. If you haven't, then you haven't taken any chances. But you know that if you have, being out on a limb can be a very frightening place to be. Sometimes, like the proverbial cat up a tree, we can't work ourselves back to the ground. But there are other times, hanging on for fear of our lives, there may be only the sound of a buzzsaw in the hand of a friend trying to help us by sawing off the branch. Most time in my life, I feel like the video that my favorite newscaster uses whenever he does what he calls a bear alert. These always feature local footage, usually from some small market station, of a bear who has wandered into a residential neighborhood and is frightening the populace by its mere presence. You have all seen this stuff because on slow days in the news department, it always makes an appearance, even in the Chicago market. The reoccurring thing that gets my favorite guy so crazy is of a bear who has climbed out onto a branch of a tree, fallen asleep, and when daylight came, was discovered. The bear would have come down eventually if left alone. But leaving things alone is not a human trait. So animal control is called, and that is when the circus starts. It is determined that if they shoot a tranquilizer into the bear on a branch as high as it is, it might injure itself in the fall. So some genius comes up with the idea to bring in one of those backyard trampolines and place it under the now puzzled bear watching from its perch high above. Shot is fired, the bear becomes dazed and dizzy, and finally falls from the branch perfectly onto the trampoline. Unfortunately for the bear and the plan, the bear bounces high into the air and on its second fall towards earth misses the trampoline and lands with a thud on the ground anyway. This could be the story of my life. I go out on a limb, somebody shoots at me for having a radical plan, and even while trying to cushion my fall, I land on the thud anyway, on the ground. The timid and the rational would look at this story and say, one should never go out on a limb for anything or anybody. The bold, and some might say irrational among us, would say, no risk, no reward. Sometimes going out on a limb allows us to get a perspective on things that others who stayed with their feet firmly planted on the ground would never have. The risk itself might be its own reward, which is exactly what Zacchaeus discovered in today's gospel. We always tend to inflict our Christianity on this story and therefore ruin it. Scholars and preachers tend to project all kinds of emotions and attributes to Zacchaeus that I don't think he had. They say things about him like, even though he was rich, he knew that there was something in his life that was missing. There was a hole in his heart that only Jesus could fill. That the charisma and the charm of Jesus caused him to be so intrigued that this very wealthy man would risk the ridicule of his friends and neighbors just to catch a glimpse of Jesus as he passed by.